So time now to go through the Sunday papers with you, and here with me to review them are Edward Adu, writer and broadcaster, and the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. So very good morning to both of you. Lovely to see you both today.
How are you doing? Hope you're well.
Good morning. Yeah, all good, and just all of us trying to keep warm, aren't we? Very chilly out there. So let's crack on. Lots of stories on the front pages of the Sunday papers. Dawn, you're kicking us off, aren't you, with the Mail on Sunday, which goes with a story about Prince Andrew.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are some stories that just won't go away, and we seem to be talking about them year in, year out. This is one of them. This is the ongoing sordid saga of Prince Andrew. It's on a couple of front pages and insides today. This is the Mail on Sunday, and the headline, as you can see there, Andrew's bids to overturn sex abuse bill. This is a royal exclusive by the Daily Mail, has been picked up by the Sun and other newspapers. Basically, Prince Andrew is launching, as the Mail call it, a dramatic bid to overturn the multi-million-pound settlement he paid out of court to Virginia Giuffre, who accused him of sexual assault. And Andrew is now considering he has legal grounds to get the money back that he paid her, and also ask for an apology. This is after Virginia admitted that she may have misremembered things. It's quite common these days, isn't it? In the case of Alan Dershowitz in America, she also accused him of similar accusations that she's made against Andrew, and she recently had to dropped that case and admitted that she may have made a mistake in identifying him as the person who sexually assaulted her when she was younger. So Andrew Narrow's, his lawyers have picked up on this case and decided that they too may have a case to take to the court and fight again. So Andrew basically is not giving up on this one. Interestingly, also, his brother, obviously the king, is said to not have any objection with Andrew actually opening a legal case in this situation. And also it comes as another story about Andrew today about the Queen was also very happy for him to quietly continue using his HRH title, at least privately. So again, it's the Andrew story. It won't go away like a lot of our stories these days, but it'd be very interesting to see how this one does play out going forward.
Yeah, that's right, and see if anything does progress. He's always vigorously denied wrongdoing, hasn't he? But there is no comment from Prince Andrew on this, no comment from Virginia Giuffre as well, so we'll see if that does actually go anywhere. Let's move on, shall we, Edward, to the front page of the Sunday Times. Lots of stories on the Sunday Times, but you're picking out the one about a new clampdown on illegal immigrants.
Yeah, this story, I mean, when you mention the hostile environment to a lot of people, especially a lot of people who are connected with it from the Windrush generation, they would have thought it would have been swept under the carpet. But there are plans by the Home Office for this to be reintroduced or revived. Now, the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is part of the plans to try and tackle down the small boats crisis. Now, the hostile environment was when Sajid Javid was Home Secretary, he got rid of it. It was probably one of the worst things ever, connected to the Home Office, the way the Windrush generation. I spoke to lots of people on the radio, and actually come across a guy who worked in a school in northwest London. And he was questioned. He was part of the investigations, and he had to lose. Sadly, he couldn't work because he was wrapped up in. They assumed that he wasn't allowed to stay in this country, and obviously it was proven that he was. But this is the whole issue connected to data sharing, and I'm sure there'd be lots of campaigners who would be saying, look, there's probably better ways of trying to kind of address this, or to try and to tackle illegal immigration. But going back to that kind of rhetoric of how people from the Windrush generation were treated, if this goes ahead, then certainly it seems as if we're going back to those dark, gloomy times under Theresa May's when she was Home Secretary, her directive with the hostile environment.
Well, yeah, and interestingly, it does say in that article that Home Office insiders when they were asked about whether it constituted a revival of the hostile environment policy, a government spokesperson said they didn't accept that characterisation. They said everyone will be treated with the utmost respect, but as the British people would expect, we simply won't tolerate an abuse of our immigration system to the detriment of legitimate workers. That's what they're saying about it, aren't they?
I think it's the case of, look, clearly there is an issue concerning illegal immigration, but I think if the hostile environment, if elements of that are going to be used or tried to enforce this, then I've watched the documentaries, we've heard the stories, and clearly, things went, it wasn't done in the right context. So I'm sure if advisors or it has to be done in the right context, because we can't have a Windrush generation part 2. It certainly, I mean, that wouldn't bode well for anyone.
Dawn, did you have a thought on this? Did you want to come in on this at all?
Echoing pretty much what Edward said, basically. I think it's incredible the way the Windrush generation have been treated, especially the situation we're currently in with the boats crossing the channel. I mean, it does seem to be that, obviously, it's a mess, isn't it? And it does need sorting out.
OK, and Dawn, actually, you wanted to take us on to the front page of The Observer next, didn't you? And these are the pressure on Nadeem Zahawi after yesterday he admitted having made a careless and not deliberate tax error, in his words.
Oh, it happens, Anna. Yes, of course it does. And all us self-employed people are busy filling in our tax returns to hit that 31st of January deadline, aren't we? Again, this is another story that refuses to go away. And The Observer's not the only paper to have Nadeem on the front. He issued a statement saying he is confirmed that he's reached a multi-million-pound settlement with Revenue and Customs over a tax dispute involving a polling company. It's YouGov. Remember, this story had been rumbling since last July when he was investigated for selling the company he founded, a polling company called YouGov, and not necessarily paying the right amount of tax on it. He's admitted, as he phrases it, he made a mistake, which happens. It was a careless error, nothing intentional whatsoever. So he's paid the tax he owed plus £1 million fine. But I mean, Anna, this is, in a week that, obviously we've had the Prime Minister not wearing a seatbelt in the back of a car. It's just incredibly toxic for the Tories. Bearing in mind, he was Chancellor at one point. I mean, most people seem to have been recently, don't they? But he was Chancellor. And it's like, when so many of us have said they're filling in our tax returns now, we're hard-pressed, a cost of living crisis, and it's like, hold on a minute, a careless error. And it does seem to be, again, as we were talking about with Edward's story with the Windrush generation, there is one law for some and one law for the rest of us. But he has said it was a mistake and he hopes this closes the matter. However, I'm not entirely convinced that will actually happen.
Well, no, and Labour want more questions answered, don't they? Because Mr Zahawi has said that he has made an error, but he hasn't disclosed the size of the settlement. There were reports that it's close to £5 million, and he also hasn't confirmed whether or not he did in fact pay a fine, which would have been 30% of that. So it would have been a big fine, wouldn't it? So Labour still want more questions answered. OK, let's move on, shall we? I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that in the days ahead. Edward, the coronation, lots of details put out. I think there was an embargo last night, so it's in lots of the papers and the front page of the Daily Telegraph. What are we learning about next summer's event?
So I think that the heart of it, and I mean, this is the take from the Telegraph, that refugees and NHS are going to be the heart of the coronation. And I think compared to what the previous coronation, from what has been said or what has been highlighted, or I wouldn't say rumours, but I think it's going to be scaled down. And certainly diversity is going to be the heart of the coronation, because I think King Charles, I think that's his take, that's his ethos, that the monarchy now has to kind of represent everybody, and to a certain degree it always has, but I think there's certain pockets of society who have possibly felt that it hasn't reached out to everybody. So possibly, this is the moment where it can actually reach out, and it can connect with people from all backgrounds.
Well, that's right, and during a cost of living crisis, a lot of people might feel that's more appropriate, isn't it, to be a bit more inclusive. Dawn, should we try and squeeze in one more story? Your next one? Oh yeah, why not? It's about biscuits. Let's do it. Always keen on a biscuit story.
I want a biscuit. I want a biscuit.
Yeah, we all want biscuits now. Very quickly, Dawn, what's it about?
What are you dunking in your tea this morning? This is the front page of the Daily Star on Sunday, designed to have some fun with the world. And as you can say, it's the way the cookie crumbles. And this is a story that youngsters, young folk again, Anna, are ditching biscuits and dunking samosas in their tea instead. I mean, really? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're out of time. We'll leave it with Edward
We can have a
applauding
combo.
the idea of a samosa in his tea.
And
We're out of time.
And
Gotta go.
samosa.
Thank you.
Let's just have both.